And we're doing this after, right?
Good morning, ladies and
Excuse me,
gentlemen.
thank you.
If you've not already done so, please silence your cell phones. Thank you. Also, collecting for the holiday luncheon today is Marge Palmer, Carol Gonda, Mary Ann Ruby. Please see them after the meeting if you have a check. Thank you. I'd like to thank Janet Fortin for last week's memorial display for Abraham House. Thank you again to Carla Till for facilitating that program. The presentation provided us with little-known facts about the history of Abraham House and future goals. We are fortunate to have this facility in Rome and hope that their goals are met. Today's memorial is a lovely tribute. I'd like to thank Marley Adams for the time she took to provide that today. Well, as I see when I look out the window, winter is upon us. It's a bit earlier than the calendar says, as this is a season of giving. A quote by Khalil Gibran is most appropriate. You give little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. Dutch will now share last meeting's minutes with us. Dutch?
Good morning, everybody. I can't believe that tomorrow is going to be 3 weeks until Christmas arrives, which reminded me of a little story. Everything reminds me of something. I don't know, it's how my brain works. But anyway, these 3 blonde men decided to go into the forest to hunt for a Christmas tree. And while they were searching for the Christmas tree, they came across some tracks. And the first blonde man said, I really think those are deer tracks. And the second blonde man said, no, I really think that those are moose tracks. And the third blonde man said, well, he said, I disagree with the both of you, but those are elk tracks. And as they were arguing, the train hit them. Look at us. I don't know. I don't know. Yes, I'm glad they said blonde men and not blonde women. So, anyway, here are the minutes from the November 19th meeting, just 2 weeks ago. President Lomry called the meeting to order at 10:30 a.m. at the Beaches Band. With Thanksgiving Day being next Thursday, November 27th, she encouraged all to reflect on all our blessings. She thanked our chair, Rosanna Strangelo, for bringing fabric collage artist Lynn Brockway and her creative pieces to our November 12th meeting. She then thanked Janet Fortin for today's lovely memorial display. Next, Carol Gondek, one of the co-chairs for the holiday luncheon on December 17th, provided details for the event. Delta Lake Inn will be the venue with an all-inclusive luncheon cost of $38. Deadline to sign up is December 10th, and checks can be mailed to Mary Ann Ruby, Marge Palmer, or Carol Gondek, or brought to the next 2 in-house meetings. Secretary Glenda Alvarez read the minutes from the November 12th, 2025 meeting. With no additions or corrections, a motion to accept was made by Phyllis Didio and seconded by Diane Butcher. Motion passed with all in favor. Membership Chair Sheila Waters asked Susan Williams to introduce new member Kathy Grable-Palais and Gail Tucker to introduce new member Lenora Merrithieu. Both were presented with a WMC pin by Sheila and then welcomed by President Lowry. Health and Wellness Chair Carla Till introduced today's guest speakers, Gina Chacha, CEO, and Kim Todd, COO of Abraham House, a welcoming residential care home for the terminally ill with 2 locations, one in Utica, New York, which was established in 1998, and one in Rome, New York. The 33-room facility, which was a gift from the former Rome home, opened in 2019, and one of our own members, Gretchen Sprock, was instrumental in its establishment. The organization's core vision is to provide compassion, dignity, and respect, not only to the ill guest, but to the family members as well. Kim and Gina talked about the various components of the organization, from the residential layouts, services provided by both professional employees and volunteers, as well as the philosophy and strategy that will enable and support the sustainability of the organization. With only 2 homes within 3 counties, the need for additional facilities is crucial. A program called Vision 2035 has been established with the goal of owning and operating 10 homes throughout the area in the next 10 years. With 67% of the organization's payroll used for its wonderful caregivers, other methods of raising funds are private donations, various fundraisers, and their thrift store, the Bird's Nest, which has raised over $200,000 since 2017. At the end of the presentation, Gina and Kim showed pictures and comments from former guests, and a truly memorable one that really touched my heart was a quote from a Mr. Russo. He said that a neon sign should be placed on the rooftop saying, "God lives here." If that doesn't say it all, nothing does. President Lumry thanked Gina and Kim for sharing information and their unique perspectives about their wonderful facilities. She reminded the group that we will meet again in 2 weeks for a literature program. A motion to adjourn at 11:30 a.m. was made by Linda Berry and seconded by Nan Firmer. Motion carried. Respectfully submitted, Glenda Alvarez, Secretary. It is so nice to see a wider aisle to go down.
Thank you, Dutch. Can we have a motion to accept if there are no additions or corrections? Debbie Mislinski? Second? Kathy? Only? Kathy K. Only. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Lynn is going to give us an updated version, or actually report, not a version, for our treasury.
Good morning. This is the Treasurer's Report from November 5th, 2025 to December 3rd, 2025. Balance on hand, November 5th, 2025 was $10,466.82. Receipts over the period included $100 for total funds of $10,566.82. Disbursements for the month totaled $1,430.35 for a balance on hand today, December 3rd, of $9,136.47.
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions? Can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Linda Davis. Second, Sheila Waters. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Sheila is going to update us on our membership.
Good morning. Good morning. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving, and we're back to it. I just received actually 3 new applications, and we have 1 opening, so it'll be after Christmas that we'll deal with that, since we just had a meeting. And we have 2 new members to introduce today. The first is Nancy Neely introducing Stephanie Broomfield. So come on up here.
So I'm introducing Stephanie to many of you. She needs no introduction. Honestly, I have so much information on her, I could write a book. So I want to kind of condense it and shorten it. I met Stephanie a year ago. She became the president of the Palm Twig Twigs are here, and so they are familiar with her. She has a long history of volunteering, and really too many things to mention, but she has been an excellent president of Twig. And so she is a member of the yacht club. She's very athletic. We had gone kayaking this summer. She's a skier. You'll probably find her Friday mornings at Woods Valley with skiing. And so she has a history of being athletic too, because after working in finance in New York City, she decided to become a stay-at-home mom. She has 3 wonderful boys, one of whom got married this past summer. And so raising those boys, she was a coach. And she coached soccer. They even asked her to coach hockey, and what was the other one?
Baseball.
And baseball.
I was not asked back though, no, I'm not. They were little.
And most days around dinner time, you'll find her at the Y. So she's extremely athletic. She has a history of volunteering, as she said, as most of us do. So that being out there, you now know who to go to if you need someone in a position. So she was born in the Midwest, and then she moved to downstate. And after many years, she moved to Clinton, where she became part of Roman Runners, again, that athletic theme. She was part of Roman Runners, still is, for a long time. And that's what brought her to Rome. And she's been in Rome for about 10 years. And so, like I said, I could go on and on, but I know we have someone else to introduce. Do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you, Nancy.
Can't
Can't
run
run anymore. We'll try to see. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see that. That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And our next introduction is Mary Wolf, introducing Diane Griffith.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Mary Carmel Wolf, and I'd like to introduce Diane Griffith. And I have a little bit of information about her. She's originally from Syracuse, right? Grew up in Syracuse and was educated there. She's married to the Honorable Jim Griffith. And her mother-in-law, Mary Griffith, was a 50-year member and a past president of Wednesday Morning Club, longtime member. Diane, excuse me, we had singing practice. Can you tell? I lost my voice. Diane is a legal assistant, and she has a lot of hobbies and things she likes to do. She loves to golf. That's how I got to know her. She's a great golfer, and took on the leadership position of our league several years in a row, and does a lot of work for that. She enjoys other hobbies, knitting, reading, crochet, and crossword puzzles. She likes fitness and exercise, and she's a great organizer, as I said, and leader. And she is or was a deacon in her church, still a deacon at the church, the Presbyterian Church. And anything else you want to add? Okay, so welcome to Diane Griffith.
Be a member. Join it.
It's nice to have new members. Just remember that we're always looking for volunteers for different committees, chair people, officers. It's coming up soon, so think about it. Wisdom. What's wisdom? It can be defined in many ways. I found this quote very powerful from Proverbs chapter 8, verse 10 to 11. Take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge rather than the choice of gold. For wisdom is better than jewels. And now Kathy Kania will introduce today's author. Kathy?
Good morning, ladies. Good morning. It's nice to see the sunshine after the white stuff yesterday. Today we have with us Rosemary Olander, and she has acquired her master's and certificate of advanced studies in education. As a consultant and nonfiction author, she blends her professional expertise with heartfelt guidance on child development. Mrs. Olander started her career working for 17 years as a teacher of profoundly deaf children. She then became an associate principal for a junior high school, then an elementary school principal, before becoming the director of special education. Following her formal retirement, she became an educational consultant for 16 years, providing her expertise to school districts across New York State. Her focus during these years was on effective school-home relations, parent and student advocacy, inclusive practices, adherence to special education laws, and behavior management. Coffee and Wisdom is Rosemary's second book. Her first publication, co-authored with Jacqueline Elias and Rosemary Mastrolio, was titled The School-Home Connection, Forging Positive Relationships with Parents. That book lays the foundation and practices needed to improve relationships between home and school, and thereby increase student achievement. With an emphasis on communication, both books offer real-world guidance and tools to help individuals find successful strategies to improve the lives of those they touch. Please welcome Rosemary Olander.
Good morning. It's a little nostalgic being here. I was born and raised in Rome. My husband and I celebrated our wedding post-nuptial celebration here 55 years ago. Looked a little different back then. It's absolutely beautiful now. And I can't even tell you how many wonderful family birthdays and anniversaries and weddings we were here for. So it's a joy to be back here, and I want to thank you for inviting me. Where really do I start? I'm going to have to wear something to be able to even see what I'm doing with the screen. I thought I'd start with the cover of the book, Coffee and Wisdom. Joan gave a beautiful description of what wisdom is, and it kind of fits what this ended up being. But the reason my book is titled, do we have any authors here? Anybody? Okay, good. You know that when you produce a book, the key thing is the cover and the title and the beginning of the book. Those are the three key elements that will determine if your book is going to do anything at all. So I really struggled with the cover. And Coffee and Wisdom comes from a ritual that my dad and I had my whole life. From when I was a little girl, he would come in my room when I was doing my homework or when I was playing, and he would say, "Come and have a glass of milk and some cookies with me." And we would go and sit at the kitchen table, and we would talk, and we would talk. And sometimes we would talk too long, and sometimes it would be short. But we had that conversation my whole life, almost every night, even to the night before my father died. He said, "Get your coffee, let's talk." And so I did, which is why I have a cup of coffee with me. So over the course of the years at that table, he gave a lot of himself to me, and he taught me a lot of things. So that's where the title came from. The colors are because fall was his favorite time of year. Ironically, it was fall that took him away from us, but it was his favorite. So that's where it starts, is with Coffee and Wisdom. That top left is a picture of my dad. Bottom right is a picture of my dad with his older brother. The reason my dad is in a uniform and the reason he went into the Navy was because of his brother who's in that picture. He was killed in the war, World War II, and my father had lost a mother, had lost 2 sisters, and I think losing his brother was the tipping point for him. He stood up in 10th grade, walked out of the classroom, went down to the recruitment office, Navy office, signed up, lied to them, told them he was 16 going on 17, and he told him he was 17 going on 18 when he was really just 16. But they didn't check, and they took him, so he went. So I thought I'd give you a very quick review of who this man was, so you'll understand when we talk about what he did. He went to Okinawa, and he told me wonderful stories about Okinawa, and he was there at the end of the war because of his age. At the time, it was the end of the war, and he was there to detonate munitions that the United States was leaving there, and so that he had to do all of that. But he made some good friends, and he stayed in touch with them a little bit for a while, and a couple of them for quite a while. He found my mother. This was one of their engagement pictures. And then he had me on the left. That's him holding me. On the right is my sister in her first communion. Lots and lots of family get-togethers. This will come into why I'm showing you this when I talk about his gifts to us. And he was always with his nieces and nephews. They adored him, and they huddled around him and played with him, and he was very playful and very willing to do that and give his time to them. In the left picture, you'll see he's the one making the face, because typically when there was a camera out, he would stick his tongue out. But he couldn't because he had food in his mouth. So he couldn't do it. And this is at the Normandy. I don't know how many of you remember the Normandy, but the Normandy was sort of in our family. My uncle's brother owned it, so a lot of celebrations were there. This is my father's side of the family. Our Currys, Bernabes, Calasantes, so that was at the Normandy. And then he stayed in the Naval Reserve when he got out of the service and worked his way all the way up to being a chief and was very proud of that. And, this is a picture of my mom and dad at one of our wedding celebrations. It might have even been on the grounds here, and their 40th wedding anniversary. So that kind of explains who the man was. Now, I would ask you to just, in your mind, think for a moment about the best gift you were ever given as a child. Just keep that in your mind while we're talking, okay? 1 or 2 gifts. Now, let me explain how this book got started. And I'm going to do that by reading you the first paragraph of the book, because it sort of explains it. My father was dying. As he lay in his hospital bed, he used what were to be his last speaking moments to say, "I want to apologize to you and your sister." I was surprised and could not think of anything for which he would need to be apologetic. So I asked him, "What on earth are you apologizing for?" As I sat with him, he told me that he was sorry he was leaving us with nothing. Despite his years and years of hard work and willingness to do whatever was needed to provide for our family, the reality was that at the time of his death, his estate was near nothing. No money in the bank, no artifacts or assets of worth left behind, and a house with little marketable value. This, to my father, meant that he was leaving us, in his words, with nothing. I can't tell you how that impacted me, because I was sitting there thinking, I am one of the richest people in the world. What is he talking about? So it was a long night. I kept him awake. I knew it might have been his last night, and in fact it was. But I said to him, "Let me explain to you. Your gifts over the years have made Tony Lynn and I, my sister, incredibly rich and wealthy.
And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, let me explain. So I started to talk about the gifts he gave us. That was the seed for this book. That was in 1991. Now I was working and doing all the things that Kathy told you about. So I had no time to write this book, but I was jotting things in a notebook and bringing down recollections and trying to think about what I would put in it because I wanted it to be a tribute to him. And what I found was that when I got done talking to him, I could see the absolute relief in his face. He was a humble man and he didn't value who he was. He just went about his day and did what he did. And I realized that it was a gift that he said that to me, and I was able to give him a gift back and let him know how valuable he was. So, fast forward, worked all the way up to COVID. COVID comes. What am I going to do? I'm stuck. I'm in the house. Well, let's work on the book. So I started writing the book. And I said, how am I going to set it up? So let me explain how the book is set up. The book is set up with 12 chapters. And each chapter is a gift that I picked out that he gave us. There are more than 12, but I thought about the most important ones that I could think about. And they're set up so that each chapter has a gift, and then it explains why that gift is important to kids. And then recollections of how my father demonstrated, modeled, or spoke about in conversations that skill, that tactic. They are things like, and I'll just quickly go through the 12. They're things like love and acceptance, which everybody knows. All kids need to be loved, all kids need to be accepted. The acceptance is the hard part. The love is there. Time and presence, the gift of humor, the gift of trust and honesty, the gift of ethics and integrity, the gift of rituals, routines, and traditions, the gift of compassion and kindness, the gift of perspective and empathy, the gift of respect and gratitude, the gift of patience, the gift of sacrifice, and the gift of positive risk-taking. So, in looking at that, I thought, okay, let's talk about the gift of time. You know, these gifts, when put all together, will create what I call being rich. Kids who are self-actuated, who are resilient, who are grounded, who feel secure, who are empathetic. You know, there's a difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy means you can kind of understand what the person's going through. Empathy means you feel it here in your heart, just like they do. Somebody tells you a story and you emote internally with it. So the gift of time and presence was pretty important. My father never said, not now. He might say, give me a minute, give me a half hour to finish this. He might say, can we wait a half hour so that we can really sit and talk about this? This is really loud. I think I'm louder than I am. So I think it went up. So I think the gift of time is critical. And as far as back as I can remember, my father made time for us. In fact, he made time for anybody who really needed him. And he would do that. And there are stories in the book that talk about how he gave us the time we needed. Like, I showed up one time from college. I had a problem that was pretty serious. And I didn't tell him about it. I wanted to tell him face to face. So I got in the car and I drove to Rome from Albany. And he owned a business at the time. He owned Augie's Muffler Service. And he was under the car putting a muffler on. And I walked into the pit and I stood there and he saw me. And he held up a finger, he handed the tools to his helper and said, finish the car, I'll be back. He walked down, he said, let's go for a ride. And we got in the car and we went for a ride, and he said, okay, what's up? And that was the kind of man he was. I never had to wait. If I was excited or upset, he was all there, all the time. So that was kind of really key for me. His presence, not Presents, but his presence, Presence, was there. Another thing he would do is he would come and visit me at college in Albany periodically, at least once a month while I was there. And he would come on a Sunday and he'd say, let's go to lunch. And sometimes we got to lunch and sometimes we didn't get to lunch because he would come and he would start talking with me, and a friend would come in and he would introduce himself and say hi, and they would sit down. And then another one, and pretty soon there were 5 or 6 or 7 people there. And he would talk to them the way he would talk to me. How's school? Who's your favorite teacher? Why? What are you studying? Why did you want to study that? These are the kinds of, my father was an intuitive questioner. He would constantly make us think about what we were doing, why we were doing it, why it was good. But what it said to my friends is exactly what it said to me, is that this man is willing, he cares enough, and he's showing appreciation. He cares enough to find out about you. You are important, In the 1980s, there was a resiliency study done. I forget the college, that it was either Harvard or Ohio State, maybe. They did a 10-year study on 100 individuals who had, quote unquote, made it in society, which meant they didn't end up in jail, they either got a job, or they went to college, or they were able to hold an apartment and get along. All 100 of those individuals that were selected came from horrific situations. Child abuse, sexual abuse, abandonment, drug abuse, foster care where they had been mistreated, all of those things. But these 100 made it and were successful. And so they started to do a deep dive into why. Why are these people successful?
Wait, don't evacuate. She tells you to stay.
It just scares me. It's like that reaction.
So anyway, so they did a deep dive and they discovered that every single one of the 100 individuals reported that they had at least one significant adult in their life who believed in them and convinced them that they could do and be anything they wanted to do. Now, the interesting part of that is that 87 of them reported that that individual was a teacher. Okay? So the tenets in this book are not just for parents. They're for parents, they're for teachers, they're for social workers, they're for nurses, anyone who's working with children, because you do make a difference. We all, each one of us, have the ability to make or break a child. I knew that when I was in the classroom. I would tell my teachers that. Be careful, tread carefully, because you can really hurt this child or really make this child become something special. And a lot of it had to do with time and presence. Okay, so that was the first one. The second one that my father really, I'm not going to do 12, I'm only going to do a few because I know we have time constraints. But the second one was humor. My father, I told you how he used to stick his tongue out. He loved to joke around. And he loved to make light of really bad situations. I mean, people would get annoyed with him. For example, my uncle had a new car, and here in Rome, and at the time, there was a water shortage, and so everybody was asked not to wash their cars, not to put water on the lawns and all of that. And he really wanted this car washed because it was new and he wanted it. So my father had the idea, brilliant or not, to go down to the Mohawk River. Go to Belle Isle, go to the Mohawk River, take buckets, and use, and wash the car. So my uncle said, well, we'll just back the car up as close as we can so we can Right. That car ended up rear end into the water. Well, my uncle was about ready to explode. My father just burst out laughing. And my uncle tells me this story. He goes, I couldn't believe your father. He was just laughing and laughing and laughing. And my uncle's going, I don't know why you find this so funny. And my father said, well, what are you going to do? It didn't go all the way in. And this was my, it didn't go all the way in. We have a tow truck. We'll pull it out. We'll clean it up. It'll be fine. That's who he was. He would just find things humorous. Humor is one of the best ways to deal with negativity and to deal with the problems that come at you. Because if you can figure out a way around it, that is really, really beneficial. Mel Brooks says, humor is just another defense against the universe. And it truly is. And I tried when I was a teacher and when I was an administrator, and especially when I was dealing with parents who had very disabled kids, to be humorous about it. People would say, I don't know how you can laugh about this. And I'd say, it's not laughing at it. It's just taking the fun out of, dealing with this situation. And we would joke about different ways parents could do things. And then Henry Ward Beecher said, a person without a sense of humor is like a wagon without springs. It is jolted by every pebble on the road. And if you think about the people, think for a minute about the people we know who are jokers and are happy, they get along better. They can deal with negativity as it comes along more easily, for sure. Another story, which involves Joan, is one time we were at my house and Joan came over with her dog, and my father was sitting on the couch reading the newspaper, and he had the newspaper like this, and he was sitting. And we were in the kitchen, I think, or in the bedroom, I can't remember. But I hear my father go, what the heck? And then he burst out laughing. We go running in. Well, the dog had used the newspaper to pee on. So my father's sitting there like this, and he's watching his spot get bigger and bigger. And he's looking up, what is this? And it was the dog. And, our instinct was to yell at the dog, and his comment was, don't yell at him. He did what dogs do. It's my fault. I should have paid attention. But that's kind of the man he was. Probably one of the most important gifts you can give a child is a gift of ritual and a gift of routine and rules. Because rituals ground us. Rituals bring memories. And memories, as Carolyn Kennedy said, and she should know with her family history, memories are really what helps to keep a family together over the long haul. And it's true. The other thing it does is it helps a child to understand that they're part of something bigger so that they don't become so self-centered. You think about the people that are narcissistic and self-centered. They have very small worlds. It's all about them. They don't pay attention to the rest. If you can show a child, you're part of a family. You're part of something bigger. You're part of the history of our family. So as grandparents, I know most of us will make cookies with our grandchildren and stuff, but don't just make the cookies. Tell the stories about the cookies. When I was a child and made cookies with my grandmother, we had to put the flour on the table and we had to do this. Those are the stories you want the kids to have. You want them to understand they're part of something bigger and that came before them. I think one of our routines is or rituals or traditions is because we're Italian, our 7 fishes dinner. our Christmas Eve dinner. How many of you know that or okay? We did that for years while all of our aunts and uncles were alive. We did that for years, every single Christmas. And I remember saying to my father said to me and then to my sister, by the way, my sister is 13 and a half years younger than me. The day I went to college was the day she started kindergarten. My father was no different with her than he was with me. She sat with him every night and had coffee. I started having coffee at 12. I got to 12 and I said, okay, I want some coffee. A little bit more milk to start with, but then, and to this day I do it. 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night when I take my coffee, I talk to my father and go, Dad, how I wish you were here to talk with me now. And talk this out with me, you know. But it's interesting that he said to us, you can be anything you want to be. You can move anywhere in the world you want to be. But Christmas Eve, you are here in this house. And I said, well, it's one day. I mean, if I'm in New York with Ed's family, he said, Christmas Eve, you're here. You can leave Christmas morning and go there. Christmas Eve, you're here. And I said, Dad, why is this so important? He said, because the entire family is here. You don't know who will be missing from this family next year. This may be the last time you see them. So make sure you are here. And to this day, we still do it. I now do it at my house. I don't know what Joan is doing at her house, but I'm doing it earlier than Christmas. I'm doing the Seven Fishes dinner a few days before Christmas because of friends who have become our family. I tell many families who say, well, I don't have my mother here, I don't have my grandmother here, and a lot of you, probably your grandchildren are off and they're not around. And what I say to families is, you have two families. You have the family you were born to, and you have the family you've created around you as you've grown. And everyone can have a family if you choose to. And that family becomes a support system for your kids. Because there are so many divorced and co-parenting families. There are single parents. There are parents who are living away from their family, you know, they're with their kids, and they don't have the support. Build it. And my father, we always had members who became part of us, and they are family. And so I do this earlier because our non-family family members who have other places to be Christmas Eve, we still do it. Now, my immediate family still gets together on Christmas Eve, and anybody else who's around can come, but we still do the Seven Fishes dinner early. And that was a tradition that was important. But there were the little things, and what I say to parents is, take ordinary moments and make them extraordinary as much as you can. You know, I used to say that to my teachers as well. If you can take an ordinary moment and turn it into something so special that the kids count on it, they expect it, they respond to you, they relate to you. It's all about relationships. It's all about communication. I had a first grade teacher who the first thing she did in the morning, every single morning, is she would welcome the kids in, and all of us did this as teachers, and a lot of you are teachers, and she would say, okay, take out a piece of paper, and take out a piece of paper. And she'd say, okay, I want you to draw on this piece of paper whatever's in your mind, whatever you're happy about, whatever you're sad about, whatever you're excited about, whatever you're scared about, just draw me a picture. And so they all did that. She said, okay, stop. She said, here's my picture. And she had a picture of her daughter with a cast on her leg. And she said, now, my daughter is an athlete. She was going to run in a big race. She was competing in a big race that she probably would have won. She broke her leg last night. And she said, I'm distressed. I'm upset. But you know what? I have to be your teacher today. My mind can't be there. My mind needs to be here. You all have things that your minds are on. So let's take these, put them in the desk, and at the end of the day, we're gonna spend 25 minutes and we're gonna let people talk about what's going on in their lives that they're thinking about. And I want you to give me your time during the day. So she took that ordinary class meeting first thing in the morning and made it an extraordinary event for the kids. They took it home. I had parents telling me, you know, my kid told me the other day, Mom, you shouldn't be thinking about that right now. Draw a picture and put it away. Okay, so you know, the point here is everything we do models for our kids what they will do and what they will want. So if kids are seeing bullying, they're going to be a bully. If they see people being kind and empathetic, they'll be kind and empathetic. So we have to be careful what we're modeling and what we're showing. And for the key things that parents need to be, and grandparents need to be, and teachers need to be, caseworkers, etc., is incredibly observant, actively observing, not while you're looking at your phone and doing this, but actively observing what your kids are doing, what they're into, and actively listening. My father was a profound listener. He would not interrupt me. He would listen and listen, mull it over, and then ask questions. He didn't half-ass listen to me. You know, he really was good at that. So the rituals and routines are so key to what we need. And another chapter is the gift of perspective and empathy. And Mary Engelbrekt, does anybody know who she is? She's an artist, and she does these wonderful paintings, which I love, with sayings on them. She said, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. And I don't know if that was hers or someone else's, but I have that on my wall at home, and I thought I'd use it for the book. My father rarely, if ever, passed judgment on people. In fact, in his obituary, that was one thing that was noted about him. He was not a judgmental man. And I'll tell you why he wasn't a judgmental man. My father's belief system was such that he felt, you don't know what people are dealing with. You have no idea what they've come from. You don't know what happened to them just before their encounter with you. So whenever I would have a situation that upset me, he would say, well, why do you think a teacher I didn't like, why do you think she behaved that way? I don't know. Well, let's throw some guesses out here. You know, well, she's just a BITC. No, let's talk about it. What do you think is really going on? Did she come in that way? Okay, he said, imagine if each of us had a ticker tape running across our forehead, and it told what had happened just before we encountered you. What if her forehead said, my dog died this morning? Would that change how you felt about what she did or said? Well, yeah. Okay. What if she found out she had cancer? Would that change it? Yeah. You know, what if she found out that she has to prepare a meal for 25 people tomorrow night? Do you think that? So he would basically say, you don't know what they're, you can say you're going to walk in somebody's shoes, but you don't really. Even if I lost a dog and you lost a dog, our experiences are different. My dog could have been with me for, through a divorce or whatever, So perspective and empathy, he was an incredibly empathetic man, and he showed that in so many ways, particularly in his business. If he had one time he had an elderly couple come in, and they had a pretty rundown car, and they needed a muffler pretty bad, and they didn't have a lot of money. And my father said, well, let me see what you got. And the guy, put some money in his hands, and he took half of it and gave it back, and he said, no, I can do it for this. I've got some mufflers in there I can frame and all of that. So, and I happened to be there. So later I said to him, Dad, you didn't charge more than $5. He said, they needed that money more than I did. So it's okay. He said, and my mother was my father's accountant. And she was not happy with a lot of that at all. But he would say, Helen, you know, we have food on the table. You know, we know how to feed ourselves. Because we never had a lot. We were a middle class family, and he ran a small business. So that was the kind of thing that he did. One time when I was smaller, I remember being in the grocery store with him, and there was a woman in front of us who was older. She wasn't elderly, but to me she was an old lady. But she couldn't find her checkbook, and she was scrambling, and she took everything out, and we were waiting and waiting, and I was getting very impatient. And my father said, "Behave, stop." And I was like, aren't you getting a little nervous? And he said, "No, we'll talk about it in the car." And so he waited, and she finally did what she had to do. And we got to the car, and I said, "Why did that not get you mad? Why aren't you upset about that?" And he said, "One day you're going to be her age, and you're going to go into your purse, and you're not going to find something. And I want you to remember this moment, because it's going to happen to you. It happens to everybody, and you've just got to understand." So his perspective was incredible. What else can I tell you? We're probably up to questions, do you think? Probably. What I can tell you about this book is that it is it's simple, it's short, it's set up so that it can be used by families, particularly new parents or people getting married. I gave the book to, I went to a baby shower and gave the book to the father. It didn't necessarily have to be the father, but I gave the mother something and the baby something, so I gave the father this. And he sent me the most beautiful note and said, "Oh my gosh," he was a first-time father. He said, "Thank you. This gives me so many ideas of what I enjoy, what I want to do, how I can do it, and all of that." So it's really good for that. And I think it's good for anyone who wants to just have some strategies. In the back of the book is a reflection sheet where you can reflect back on some of the, like, what do you do in your family? What traditions are key to your family? So it's more personalized. I think the important thing here is that you don't need your wallet to raise rich kids. When I was growing up, I had a lot of friends in high school and in college that had everything. They had their own cars, they had computers when they first came out. Whatever they needed, they got. And they were not any more happy, and some of them were very unhappy people. So I don't think it's about money. And a lot of those friends who were not happy would come home with me for Christmas, would come home with me for weekends, because they wanted to be around my father and my mother. And, my mom was great too, and everybody said, "Where is she in the book?" Maybe the next book, I don't know. She's in it a little bit, because she had the same tendency to do stuff for people. One time I was in a grocery store with her, and there was a woman who was stressing out, and I just said, "Mom, can we do anything?" And she said, "I don't know." So she went over to this woman who was just fussing over vegetables, and my mother said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Yeah, I don't have a lot of money, but I need to eat better than I'm eating. The doctor said I'm going to get sick." So my mother said, "Let me show you." And a half hour later, I did the whole story. And a half hour later, she was still talking to her, but she showed her how to buy sweet potatoes, which have lots of vitamins in them and are not expensive, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. So my mom was like that too. My mom would cook at 2 o'clock in the morning if my father was hungry. She was crazy. She'd make a pot of sauce at 2 in the morning because he said, "I'm really hungry. What do you want? Sauce." "All right, I'll make it." So she would. So she was like that too. I think that the important things here are to make your legacy be about you, because you as grandparents, those of you who are grandparents, you are as much of a legacy giver as the parents of your grandchildren. Maybe some of you more so. So it's important that you try some of these things and look at some of these things and do the kinds of things that ground kids. So make ordinary moments extraordinary. Understand that being rich is about relationships. It's about communication. And if you listen well, I have conversations with my oldest grandson that he will not have with his mother. Because I really listen, I don't judge, I talk to him, I try to work him around to understanding what he needs to understand. But it is about giving kids grounding and self-confidence. What I intend, this book has become much more than just a tribute to my dad. My beta readers who have read it have said, we gotta get out on the road, we gotta start talking to teachers and parents, which I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start a coaching program in the new year. And some consulting with individual families is amazing. So that's it for me. We have time for questions if you have any questions. No, we're good. Thank you.
We have a raffle. So, Dutch, could you bring that green box forward? I'll shake it up a little. Hopefully, you're going to get either a real book. First one is for the real book, and the others are for ebooks. I better not shake it. I'm just going to go around and ask people to take one out, and I'll call the name. Mary Manfredo. Mary, would you come up? Go ahead. You want to give it to her? Raise your hand, Mary.
I'll bring it to you. Did you bring it?
And the next one is for an ebook.
Yeah, let me explain. We have five ebooks that it's a redeemable coupon to redeem it free from the publisher. The instructions are right on it. Unfortunately, if you do Kindle, it won't work. You got to put it on your computer. It works for Nook and some of the other ones. It'll tell you which ones you can download it to when you get it. Okay. So, first one.
Reggie Smith. Marianne, you're going to take it? Barb Radke. Connie Hurd. Kim Carrier. Thank you, Ro, for sharing intimate moments. I think we have one more.
Right? Did we do 5?
I don't think so. More. Marge Trudeau. She's right there in the white hair. Next week, we have a health and wellness program. Also, just a reminder, should we have to cancel a meeting, WKTV will have a notice up. We'll also be sending emails out that morning. So if you have any question, you could always just send me an email and I can let you know. But otherwise, WKTV will announce it with their closings as usual. They have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Oh, yeah. Question?
I just would like to mention that anybody has not read last night, the Sentinel on the page where we put the editor sent letters in. Our Gina from last 2 weeks ago.
Yes, there was an article on the Abraham House.
Yes, to Abraham House. And if nobody has read it, haven't read it.
Okay, in the Sentinel last night. I need a motion to adjourn. Carla Till. Can I have a second to that motion? Stanley Hinman. All in favor? See you next week.